Okay, well, welcome here, and I'm going to just try to give you some background on this dependency project. This is part one. After you do part one, you turn it in, then part two opens up, and the answers to part one open up. So if you make mistakes in part one, we don't want it to be compounded in part two. So anyhow, what we're looking at here is really the distribution of the American population in terms of age and how that's affecting things. So right now we don't have 2020 data up here because actually all the Census Bureau data is not yet accumulated for 2020. So we're looking at 2010 and 2000 and 2010. And we're looking at populations, how many people and what percent are in each population. So we're looking at old age dependency. And old age dependency is derived by you take the population 65 and over, and you have that right here, the population 65 and over. That's for 2010, and that's for 2020. And you divide that by the population 18 to 64. So now you can't directly get at 18 to 64, but you can get at 18 to 44, and then to that add 45 to 64. So if you add these two numbers, you will get the population that is aged 18 to 64. So what that tells you, and then you scale the bottom number, which is the 18 to 64 population, to 100, which just means cross multiply and divide. And so that tells you out of every 100 people that are in the working group, how many elderly people are there? And I'm just going to guess here, but I think it's around, for 2000, it was around 19 something. So if it was 19, it would be for every 100 people in the working age group, 18 to 64, there's 19 people 65 and older. And so in Western democracies, that number, 19 over 100, has been increasing and getting higher because of the low birth rate and things like that. Child dependency ratio is the same thing, but it's going to be the people under 18 divided by the working age population, and then scale the bottom number to 100. Whereas the total age dependency ratio is both under 18 and over 65 divided by the working age group here. Okay, this is the second question. The first question is just reading the article and answering the questions, and just read it for meaning. It's in there. I'm not going to go over that, but I will go over these. So here you want to take the 2010 population and you want to compute the old age dependency ratio. So it's going to be the total amount of people 65 and over divided by the population that's 18 to 64. And then you're going to scale the bottom number to 100. So you're going to cross multiply and divide to get this number. You want to show your work. Don't just put in an answer. This one is the child dependency ratio, which would be 0 to 18 or 0 to 17. I don't know what it says there. Divided by, again, that's 64, 18 to 64. Divided by the working age population, 18 to 64. Again, scale it over 100. You'll find this has been increasing in Western democracies and the United States. High child dependency ratios are usually typical in third world countries or developing nations. They have a higher birth rate and they tend to have a much more dependency, higher dependency, child dependency. The age dependency is just adding them both together. So you get over 65, 65 plus, and, which means plus, 0 to 18, or 0 to 17, over 18 to 64, which is the working age. Again, you want to put the numbers in and show your work. Are these part to part or part to whole ratios? And explain. Now, I'm not going to give you the answer to this, but part to whole would be something like this. Men's students to all students. All students. That's a ratio. That's part to whole. Part to part would be men's students compared to women's students. That would be part to part. So that should help you there. Use your numerical answer to write a question about what it is that this means. So let me, again, I'll just address the old age dependency. Let's say that in 2000, and I'm just guessing, right? I don't know what you're going to get here. I know within reason. Say it was 19.2 over 100. Now you want to write this in a sentence. You got to be careful with this because this doesn't mean 19.2% of the population is elderly, because that's not the population. That is the 18 to 64 group. But what you can say is that for every 100 people in the working age group, 18 to 64, there are about 19 people aged 65 and over. So that's how you'll explain that. Why would somebody bother to compare these things? I'm going to leave that to you. You know, I mean, you're talking about Social Security, you're talking about Medicare, you're talking about how many doctors you need, because as you get older, you need more doctors. You're talking about planning, you're talking about all kinds of things, and I'll leave that to you. And you're also talking about things like labor utilization. Like you heard recently, the unemployment might be 4.8%, which by historic standards might be low, but the labor utilization rate, which is how many people per 100 are actually working, is down to like 62%. Before the pandemic, it was at like 64%, which is a huge difference when you're talking hundreds of millions of people. Why is this different? Because the population is aging. A lot of people in their 60s during the pandemic, they just said, the heck with it, stop working. And you also had people that were, they say maybe people that were receiving more benefits and unemployment than they made working are reluctant to come back to the workforce. There's that. So there's all kinds of issues. So there is a brief synopsis of that first part of the project.